Issue and the national government for leading the celebration on wetlands. Father, as we begin this session, give us wisdom, give us knowledge, and guide every step and every thought that we shall discuss before us. Lord God, we pray for humanity, that humanity may come back and protect your creation. In your greatness, you created wetlands for us so that they may provide us water and livelihood. Lord, we pray that you may guide us and give us wisdom to protect wetlands. We make this short prayer believing in the name of our Lord Jesus Christ, our Lord.
Thank you very much. We have our guests here, and I would like to introduce them, or rather I would like them to introduce themselves. And we call them. Shortly, I'm going to ask our panelists to go onto the stage. But meanwhile, let me introduce our guests. Okay. So we have Water Resource Authority. It is presented by Mr.
Morning, ladies and gentlemen. Good afternoon, sorry. My name is David Ruto. I am the manager for Water Resources Authority and Eldoret Sub-Regional Office. We cover 5 counties: Elgeyo Marakwet, Uasin Gishu, Nandi, and Vihiga, and part of Kakamega. Thank you.
Thank you very much, and Karibu. Then, I don't know whether KVDA are here already. I think they're on their way. KFS. Okay. Kenya Water Towers. I think they're on their way. We have representative from ISF, PWT. Kindly introduce yourself.
Good afternoon. So my name is Dr. Joseph Mongi, the country manager for ICF EWT project in Kenya. Thank you.
I think people would like to know what those abbreviations stand for.
Yeah, sorry, I thought it was about the introduction. So ICF stands for International Crane Foundation, which is basically a US-based NGO that conserves cranes globally. So we work on all continents of the world, and Africa is one of them. Endangered Wildlife Trust is what we refer as EWT. It is based in South Africa, conserving endangered species across Africa, and for Kenya in particular, we conserve the grey-crowned crane, which is most people call the Ugandan bird. But yeah, I'll be giving leaflets maybe at some point, maybe even tomorrow, and t-shirts for you to know our message more. Thank you. Yeah.
Thank you very much. I don't know whether Mr. Anton Masioka is here. He's not yet here, so I'm going to ask someone from Endowas, not Endowas, county government to introduce himself.
Good afternoon. Good afternoon once again. My name is Philip Lagat. I'm the Deputy Director, Environment and Climate Change, County Government of Uasin Gishu. Thank you very much.
Okay, and I'm going to ask someone from RUA to also introduce himself, if they're here represented.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. I'm Christopher Kogo, middle socially RUA. RUA stands for Water Resource Users Association, and we have many RUAs.
Okay, and we also have other guests. So maybe I ask one of our guest representatives from the Kenyan
Good afternoon. My name is Jonathan Yeno. I'm the head of Department Environment at the Eldoret National Polytechnic.
Okay, RVTTI, do you have your Someone who can. I think they're coming, okay, doesn't matter. The others, we are going to introduce them as they come. So, I am going to invite our DVC to introduce himself and also give us a brief. Thank you.
I'm asking her to introduce herself. Who are you? And all the people from the University of Eldoret and the students from whichever institutions, please just.
Okay, I'm going to introduce myself. My name is Professor Lizzie Mumburi. I'm Director, Research and Innovation, University of Eldoret. So, members of University of Eldoret, karibuni. I hope you shake the hand of someone next to you who doesn't look like they are from here. From here, karibu. Eldoret Polytechnic, karibuni. RVTTI, our students, karibuni. Staff. Okay?
The ICT to assist us here? Are they here? Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. As the director has just said, my name is Raburu, and Philip Raburu. I'm working here at the University of Eldoret, in charge of research, planning, and extension. And we would like to welcome you so much on this day, this symposium. And please feel free, because we are here so that we can be able to create some awareness as concerns the World Wetland Day celebration. Now, this is a function that is being done together. It's normally being done at the national level, but this year it was decentralized to all the counties. And so in our Disscusion, we are all here together. Today in the morning, I think there was cleaning at the River Sosiani. This afternoon, we have this short awareness creation on wetlands. And then tomorrow we'll have the major ceremony, which will be there at the pavilion just next to us here. And so for those who are here this afternoon, thank you so much for coming, so that we can be able to talk about what we are supposed to talk about as concerns wetlands. Maybe before I start giving my presentation, to say something briefly for those who may not have an idea of why are we celebrating and what we are celebrating. In brief, before the year 1970s, wetlands were being overexploited. Most of them were being dried up. Some were being reclaimed. We find some cities like the Netherlands, some cities in the US and all the developed world. They were trying to drain all these wetlands so that they could put them into productive use. And when we talk about wetlands, we are talking about all the rivers are wetlands. All the lakes are wetlands, particularly before 6 meters coming out is a wetland. The oceans are also wetlands, 6 meters from the shore. Beyond 6 meters, it ceases to be a wetland. All the swamps are wetlands. All the dams are wetlands. The small water bodies are wetlands. And even the fish farms, aquaculture farms, they are wetlands. Rice irrigation schemes are wetlands because the wetlands are places that are wet, either temporarily or permanently. So all those areas were being drained. But in the year 1971, the world came to a city called a city called Ramsar in Iran, and they signed a treaty so that everyone in the world now would start to conserve these places called wetlands. And that took place on the 2nd of February, 1971. That's why we are celebrating Wetland Day every 2nd of February. Now that is the background why we are here. Now the theme for wetland conservation this year, Wetland Day, is wetland restoration. Normally the Ramsar Conventions gives us the theme every year. And this year our theme is wetland restoration. It is time to restore the wetlands. So what I'm going to give is a brief, and then after the brief, the way director has told us, we'll have a few panelists who will also give us some kind of briefs, and after that we will be open to questions. So if you have any question, please just note it down so that during the question time, there will be the interaction between those who will be in front here and all of us. Now, my topic for which I'm giving a brief is restoring ecological health of urban streams. When we talk of urban streams, we are talking of all these rivers that are passing through the rivers, the cities, and also other wetlands. So I will start by just saying something brief about the importance of wetlands. Now, I don't know whether all of you are seeing this, the slides properly. Can your eyes reach here? Those at the back, are you seeing? No. I think Corona was already defeated. So why can't you move a bit? Those students, just move a bit to this other side. Just carry your chair and just move a bit because I think we have enough space here. We're no longer having the fear of Corona so that we can be together. So what we are saying is that these wetlands are very important. By the definition, they are areas, as I've already said, areas that are permanently or occasionally waterlogged with water. And they perform different functions. Like as we can see, I don't know, does anybody have a pointer? Ben, you normally work with your pointer. Do you have it today? Okay, sorry. Yeah, so as we can see, they can provide several things. Here we say they do have, they can provide some regulation. So they regulate the climate, they regulate the erosion, hazards, water regulation, water purification, and waste treatment. Then they have provisioning that they can provide for us food. They provide fresh water, they provide fiber, fuel, fertilizer, they provide some raw materials, and even medical resources. Then we have cultural values, we have spiritual values and inspiration values. When you talk of spiritual values, you remember those who are Christians, some of you are baptized in the water, isn't it? It's either in a river or in a lake, or you can make a lake inside the church, isn't it? So you must be baptized in a wetland. Those of us who have undergone through circumcision, there is a link with the what? There's a link with the river or the swamp, where you get those mud to smear everywhere. So why is that? There is a significance of those wetlands there. Then we have recreational, we go to visit them for recreation, aesthetics, their educational value, those who are doing research, and other cultural and artistic information. And then lastly, they have supporting us by the soil formation, nutrient cycling, habitat for biodiversity, etc. So all these things are some of the significance of wetlands, which makes them very important. Now, the table that the picture I have on the left, I hope these slides will be circulated, now gives you the details of the different aspects of what the wetlands can do in the environment or in the landscape. Now, wetlands and economy. We are saying that most of our economy, all the money that we get comes from wetlands. The bulk of it, sorry. For example, if you consider our country, Kenya, if you look at tourism and you look at the wetlands related to tourism, the water from the catchment areas like, if you take Mau for example, Mau is the source of several lakes. You can connect Mau with maybe what happens in Nakuru, in Lake Bogoria. You can connect it with what happens in several other lakes, Elementaita, Naivasha, and etc., where there is a lot of tourism. And so without the water in the catchment areas, our lakes will die, and if the lakes die, then of course we don't have any tourism. We can connect it with the fish production. We only produce fish in the wetland areas, in the lakes like Lake Victoria, Lake Naivasha, Lake Turkana, and also in the coastal areas. At the same time, there's a lot of timber and other timber products or wetland products which we get from the wetlands. Now, if you look at all these things, they are contributing a lot to the economy. For example, if you look at the economy, the Kenyan economy, how much does fish produce? How much does tourism produce? How much does agriculture produce? Because agriculture also, without the wetlands, we would not have agriculture because the source of water comes from the agriculture. So what we are saying is that wetland contributes a lot to our economy. So why should we restore wetlands? Or rather, why did the Ramsar Convention decide that this year we talk about wetland restoration? Number one, wetlands are being lost 3 times faster than forests. You know we are losing our forests, but the rate at which we are losing our wetlands is very fast. And most of the Earth's, it is one of the, most of the Earth's threatened ecosystem. Wetlands, if you look at all the ecosystems in the world, wetlands are very much threatened, and more than 80% of wetlands have disappeared since 1700. So if you have lost 80%, then what is remaining is very little, and it requires restoration. And since 1970, at least 35% of wetlands have been lost since the Ramsar Convention was signed to protect the wetlands. And that one continues. The next one is human activities are driving degradation. So most of our wetlands are being filled, being overgrazed, and some of us who live around this region, always you see the dry season like this, there are some people who normally burn the Morola swamp. And also in other areas, that burning takes place. And when you burn it, you destroy the wetland. And some of those activities are increasing. There is water pollution, there is overfishing, and several activities that will harm what is there in the wetland. You know, we didn't have time to go deep into the science of wetlands, but the issue is the environment inside a wetland must be conducive for all the animals. And within a wetland, you have the worms, which you cannot see. You have some of the beetles that are in the water. You have some of the, those that are found in the mud, under the mud. So that environment is very important for that water, all of that ecosystem. Now, after the mud, then you have the water itself. Now, that water itself also have different organisms living in it. If you get water and you see clean water, it is not just water. There are so many things. Some are very small organisms that we cannot see. The plants, the phytoplanktons. We have the zooplanktons. We have the macroinvertebrates. Some of them you cannot see with your naked eyes. We have even some of the viruses and the bacteria, which are very important to the survival of that wetland. And then finally, You start having the bigger ones like the frogs, then you have the reptiles, then you have the fish, and all these things are related, they're interrelated. The fish cannot do without the worm down there. The frog can also not live there alone unless there is something else to it within the water system. So when we say that the human activities are driving the degradation, it means the things that we do will kill those organisms and the wetlands will not be able to assist us. Wetland species are facing extinction, and we are saying in the freshwater systems, about 25% of wetland species are facing extinction right now, and 81% of inland wetland species and 36% of coastal and marine species have declined in the last 50 years. Now, what I've been saying now is what drove the Ramsar Convention to come up with this wetland restoration as a theme for this year. Please just come in quickly. Those who are coming in, just come in quickly. All right, so that is what has caused us that. Now, I'm not going to come back again. I'll just come and wait for the questions because I was also supposed to talk about the threats to urban streams. We have the streams or the rivers that are there in the what? In the urban areas. Like in Lake Victoria, like in Eldoret, we have Rivers Oceanic. Now, these streams are facing a lot of problems because of the increased human population, which now causes what we call deforestation. We have encroachment of the riverbanks for farming. You find as you walk along the rivers, people are farming until the riverbanks. We have overutilization of resources such as the fish or the plants. I think most of you also who are around here, you must have seen some people harvesting papyrus and making mats. Some of them are being used to make fences, but then they are being overexploited. We have dumping sites, as you can see in some of the pictures there, on the picture on the top right, a lot of dumping that has taken place in our urban streams. We have over-obstruction of water. We have the competition for the scarce resources. Some of them are dams. Damming is also being done in most of them. And we have industrial and domestic sewages that are being released in our wetlands. And also we have invasive species that are killing the other species that are naturally inside the wetland. So what are we saying? We are saying that there are so many things that human beings are doing which are causing a problem to our urban streams. Now, we have been conducting some study here from our university on urban streams, particularly the streams in Eldoret town, Kakamega town, Kisumu town, Migori, and all these towns that are close are found within the Lake Victoria Basin. And these are some of the findings that we have seen. Now, when we are talking of degradation, I'm sure you may not see those ones very clearly, but here, what we are showing here, we tried to sample the organisms found in these rivers. And that is River Auji and River Kisati in Kisumu, River Nyakomisare in Kisii, River Migori, and River Sosian in Eldoret. The other one on the left is showing us the different organisms, particularly invertebrates that are found within those rivers. Now you can see that the ones that we are finding that are majority there are the ones that are resistant to environmental degradation, which means these streams are already degraded. The same on the right is the different fish species that are found in these rivers. It also shows us the same, that most of the fish that you're finding in abundance are the fish that are resistant. And since they are resistant, it means the ones that can live in a clean. For example, I don't know whether you can see, in this, the one that is up there, EPT, that is called Ephemeropteran, Plecopteran. All those, if you can see, there are very few that are found in each and every of the river because those ones are very sensitive. If there is any pollution, they die. So from our research, it shows that already our streams in the urban areas are extremely under pressure. Next, if you look at Rivers Oceani, for example, that map there shows Rivers Oceani, and on the right is showing the mountain, the Kaptagat area where we have some forest. The green there means forests. The reddish there means the buildings. And as you can see from Kaptagat up there, the environment there is different from what you'll find in the area where there's a lot of red, that is around the towns, Eldoret town, and the surrounding areas. And so from where we find that in the upper areas, the waters are very clean because there is less human activities. You have mainly big farms and a lot of vegetation. As you come here in the middle, you have very high levels of nutrients from the farms, a lot of human settlements. We have car wash, industrial activities, runoffs from the garage, petrol stations, and also some kind of waste like from the market and from the hospital. So if we look at what is happening along the Oceani, up there in the middle here, and also as we go down towards Turbo, you'll find that there is something that can show you that something is happening in our river. For example, that graph there, the one on the top left, is showing the quality of the habitat. We have an index we use to test the quality of the habitat. So the first one is with the forest. You can see the quality of the habitat is very good, over 50% of that index. Then the mixed, where we have forest and some other land uses, is going down a bit. In agricultural areas, it's coming down, and in the urban areas, is lower. The graph at the bottom left is showing the differences in BOD. BOD is called biological oxygen demand, and it is one of the indicators of pollution. So you find that if you start from here, around the Two Rivers Dam, and then you go through the flower farms, then you go through Sukunanga Car Wash, you go through around the town, then you go, this is the Kapsabet Bridge, and then you go down, and here now to this bridge, the market area. As you go to Huruma sewage, you'll find that the BOD is building. The environment is becoming poorer and poorer until you reach around the Huruma sewage. Now, as you go down to Turbo, the environment recovers a bit, which means that the quality of the environment of the river is being destroyed by all the human activities. So as you go down, it is getting worse and worse until up to Huruma dump site. Now, as you go down up to Turbo, it may improve a bit. Now, what is that telling us? That there is something that we need to do, something is happening to our river. Because ideally, it should not be, the BOD should not be that high in some of these areas, but you see it builds up within the town. Last but not least, those figures also shows us the different organisms, as we had mentioned earlier, but this one is more clear and to specify which organisms have problems. Now, this calls us to do wetland restoration and protection. So when you talk of wetland restoration, you're talking of the manipulation of a former or degraded wetland physical, chemical, or biological characteristics to return it to its natural functions. So this is the call for us. Now the scenario I've presented for Oceani is not only Oceani with the problem, all our urban streams have the problem. And most of our wetlands also have the problem. And so we need to do something about it. Now, just to try to rush quickly and to finish. Now, when we want to restore our wetlands, there are principles of wetland restoration. We need to preserve and protect our aquatic resources. We need to restore their ecological integrity. We need to restore their natural structure and functions. We need to work within the watershed and the landscape context. For example, if you're talking about Rivers Oceani, we need to look at what is happening in Rivers Oceani right from Kaptagat, where the river starts, all the way to where it meets in past Turbo. We need to address the ongoing causes of degradations. What is causing these degradations in our wetlands and even our swamps? You realize that most of our swamps in our Disscusion here, there are certain things that are threatening them. If you look at, for example, flower farms, if you go to Upper Barola, you'll find a big flower farm connected to it. What does it do to our wetland? If you go to Maji Mazuri, it's the same thing happening. If you go to all our wetlands, you'll find that is the same thing that is happening. Now, flower farm is just one of them. What about the other things? Okay, we need to develop clean, clear, achievable, and measurable goals. We need to anticipate the future changes, and we need to involve multidisciplinary teams, like we are here, all of us from the different areas. And also we need to restore the native species and avoid non-native species. Then we need to monitor it to make sure that the changes are taking place and they are helping the wetland. So that is where we are, ladies and gentlemen. That just shows us the restoration process, starting from the first picture on the top when it is bare, as you go through the restoration, and the last one when now it's already restored. So it is a possibility that we can restore all these, our wetlands, which have been degraded by human activity, so that they can continue to provide us with the food that we require. So why is restoring wetlands worthwhile? As I conclude, number one, it revives biodiversity. And it says there that 40% of the world species live or breed in wetlands. So all these 40% of our species that live in the wetlands, if wetlands are dead, we are dead. Number two, we have to replenish and filter our water supply. Water is very sensitive, water is life. If our water systems are not clean, not clear, we are dead. So we need to restore our wetlands. They store carbon. You know the issue of climate change. Wetlands are the best in climate, in carbon absorption of carbon. And that is something very important with this era of climate change, and that we must do. If we don't do, things are getting bad. Floods, the impact of floods and storms. Areas where there are a lot of wetlands, we don't get a lot of flooding. That's why you find a lot of flooding, for example, in these places like Budalangi, places like Nyando. Several years ago, when the wetlands were there upstream, when it rains, it will take a long time for water from up here to go there. And so water will go slowly and enters the lake slowly. But nowadays, these wetlands are destroyed, the runoff will go very quickly. So within a few hours, water has already reached the floodplains, and then they are flooded. And so these are some of the things that wetlands help. So if we destroy this upper catchment, we are also destroying and causing floods downstream. Number 5, improve livelihoods. As I said earlier, fishing, aquaculture, agriculture, harvesting grasses and whatever. All these things are important for us so that we can be able to get livelihood and get our food. Number 6, they boost ecotourism. As I said earlier, without the wetlands, for example, in Kenya, we will not get a lot of money because most of our tourism is based on birds, like the flamingos. And lastly, they enhance quality of life because there are areas where you can go and relax, so long as you don't drive your vehicle and drown yourself after relaxing, like it happened sometime in Kiambu just a few weeks ago. You can enjoy a sense of satisfaction and resurrection, resurgence. So, ladies and gentlemen, that is what we want to give us a brief about wetlands and restoring wetlands. And if there is any question, please write it down. We will be able to take it during the discussion. So with that, Director, thank you very much.
Thank you very much, DVC. I'm just going to introduce 2 other groups that joined us while you're giving your talk. Nema, Sally, it's yourself.
Good afternoon, everybody. I'm Kibo Sally, County Director of Environment,
Wasingishu Nema. Thank you very much. Carol, can you introduce your group?
Good afternoon, everyone. Good afternoon, everyone. I'm very sorry that we came in late, but at least we have made it. So I'm Dorothy Mukoha. I'm from Eldoret Water and Sanitation Company, that is Eldoret. And together with my other colleagues, we are from the strategy department. So I've come on behalf of our director. God bless you.
Thank you very much. So with that, I'm going to request all our panelists kindly who can join us on stage. Sally, Prof. DC, Mr. Ruto, Dr. Muley, Dorothy, and I, that name is so long, the National Crane, kindly join us on stage. Have I forgotten someone? Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Eldowas, I know you are the last to arrive, but I'm going to begin with you. I would like you to tell us about wetland degradation and what Eldowas is doing about provision of potable water. I'm going to give you 7 minutes. If you go beyond 7, I'll start walking up and down. So you can just stand and talk to us.
So good afternoon, everyone, once again. Dorothy. I'm the Acting General Manager Strategy and Resource Mobilization, coupled together with Monitoring and Evaluation. And together with me here, she's my colleague, Carol Okango, who is in charge of PROPOA activities. So we are from Eldoret Water and Sanitation Company, and I want to believe that when we talk of Eldoret Water, we actually identify with most of you because you are our stakeholders. So Eldoret Water and Sanitation Company has the mandate of the provision of water and also the provision of sanitation services. So maybe we'll just give an overview of what we have done as Eldowas, because we are so much dependent on the wetlands. I want to believe that my colleagues who have already done their presentations, they have actually spoken a lot about the wetlands. So from our end, I think the only thing that you're going to touch is probably the interventions that we have done or what we are doing as Eldowas, based on the fact that we really depend on the survival of the wetlands. So, So sorry for that, there's some technical hit. But actually, it's just a short presentation, and probably just maybe to just talk on the intervention that we have been doing. For us, we are so much for conservation, especially in our water catchment areas that are actually making most of these wetland areas. Maybe she can just do it without highlighted on the screen. Karibu.
I think you can just make it.
Okay.
Okay, good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Caroline, as you've been told. Eldowas recently started a strategy, research and resource mobilization department. And in that department, we deal with low-income areas and conservation issues. And many of you, I think we've even done several campaigns with some of the students in this university concerning conservation. We plant trees, we have tree nurseries and the like. Our department focuses basically on sensitization of the communities around the catchment areas. We know that Eldoret has many, many wetlands. And you know, when you look at streams flowing through the town, you realize that there are so many wetlands, especially here in Kibumu, Chepkanga. If you look at Kipkaren, you look at the estates. Kapseret is actually Seret, you know, as Canadians call it. Seret is a place of wetlands, swamp. So there's a lot of wetlands within Eldoret town. What is happening is that there's a danger of encroachment. People are developing. People are getting into those places. And you know, when they block the waterways, the result is flooding or dry land. And during these times of dry season, there's so much, there's so much water, there's no water, and there's so much search for water. And the shallow wells also dry up, and the boreholes dry up. This is mainly because people have encroached on the wetlands. And the wetlands are the ones that recharge the biodiversity, recharge the water sources, recharge even the sequential wastewater that goes out. Friends, Eldowas basically has been on a drive campaign to ensure that people don't encroach into the catchment. We are in the process of executing a certain project that will help us to fence off our catchment areas and the places where we plant back the trees. The previous presenter mentioned something about chemicals. We have ways of farming. People have encroached into the waterways. And the chemical that is resultant from these activities are the ones that dry up the wetlands. And someone was telling me that wetlands do not cause flooding. Encroachment on those wetlands brings flooding because the waterways are blocked. And when you see the reeds, when you see where the biodiversity of this area comes from, it's mainly from those wetlands. So for us in Eldoas, it is still our baby. Right now, we are getting into wetlands conservation by sensitizing people living, our communities living around the catchment areas. Kaptagat, we've done it at Shabara, and we are currently planning to do some at Kipkeino, so that the community will know why it is important to stay away from the wetlands, not bringing in the chemicals, the poor styles of farming, even our lifestyles. Funnily enough, right now it is very dry in Eldoret, but if you go down to Kipkaren, you'll find people washing cars, and people are washing clothes. That water is actually coming from wetlands. And around Kipkaren, there are many wetlands. Along River Sosiani, way up from the sides of our Elegerini Dam, if you follow the river alongside, you will find that there are several wetlands, places where people have encroached, and now the resultant effect is the dryness along the river and very dirty water because of the chemicals and human living around the river. I think that is the short and all of our. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. Probably maybe if there's anything that you might want us to elaborate on as far as Eldoret Water Sanitation is concerned. We are also looking into partnership. I think even for this event, we have given around 500 seedlings for the planting of the trees, because we have also established tree nurseries, and we are having around 2 million seedlings. And many times we are partnering with so many institutions, planting of trees, so that we are able to restore our wetlands, we are able to restore even our biodiversity and also our catchment areas.
Thank you very much, Eldoas. I think the questions, you can just lock down the questions, and then we can ask all the panelists at the end. Before I call on International Green Foundation, I'm just going to ask KFS, who have just come in, to introduce themselves and the group, and join our panelists on stage.
Okay, good afternoon, everyone. My name is Isaac. I'm the Assistant County Forest Conservator of Disscusion County, and I've come with my colleagues in Kenya Forest. I have Mr. Raymond Sambudia. He's seated somewhere. Raymond Sambudia is in charge of forest extension services in 3 sub-counties. That's the Kapseret, Kasset. You have, I think, Taribo and Labkoi. And then my end, I think we'll talk later, is my boss. That's Mr. Joseph Kimori. He's the County Forest Conservator of Disscusion County. Thank you so much, and let us have a good discussion. Thank you.
Thank you very much. So now I'm going to call on International Green Foundation. Kindly tell us how you are restoring wetlands and why you want to increase the water from wetlands.
Good afternoon. So I don't have a written presentation, but I'm going to be clear. So it's good to be back. I know some lecturers are not remembering me here. Professor Aburu, you are my undergraduate lecturer, but you can't remember that. And I also did my master's here. Yeah, some time back. Right now, for those who are not here when I was doing my introduction, I'm Dr. Joseph Mwangi, the country manager for a partnership in Kenya between Endangered Wildlife Trust, based in South Africa, International Crane Foundation, based at the US, and Community Action for Nature Conservation. We conserve wetlands, cranes, and also for the benefit of people. So although I'm working on cranes right now, or the grey crown crane, I am here to talk about wetland restoration for the benefit of waterfall. So I'm just going to touch on three main topics. Wetlands as important flyways for birds in general. That means how wetlands are utilized by birds when they are migrating or when they're having local movements. I'm going to talk about the importance of wetlands as a significant waterfall habitat, breeding, and also for tourism for us. And I'm going to touch a bit about the importance of waterfall for Kenya because of hosting a lot of our endangered birds. So just a few facts. Did you know that the biggest congregation of birds in Kenya is found in a wetland? So we know that. Yeah? Lake Nakuru, sindio? Now to show the importance of what degradation to a wetland or a change in wetland does to what a waterfall habitat. 5-10 years ago, Lake Nakuru was hosting more than 1 million flamingos every year, right? Right now, because of that change in the habitat of the wetland, right now, if you go there, you might find less than 100 flamingos. So we are talking about a transformation of more than 10% of our population just because of a change in the habitat structure, the habitat or the flooding regime, which are characteristics that Professor Aburu was talking about. So conversion of a wetland from its original state to another state is very detrimental, not for birds alone, for tourism. Previously, Lake Nakuru was one of the highest earners as a national park in Kenya. Right now, KWS is struggling to get visitors to Lake Nakuru. That means an implication to our economy, direct, even without considering about what the flamingos are doing. So, I want to talk about restoration because a lot of people confuse restoration with planting trees. If you look at the definition of restoration, and my fellow panelists will agree with me, restoration is putting it back to a former or the original state. So if you take a wetland that was a grassland or a sedge and convert it into a forest, you are actually not restoring that wetland. You are degrading it further. And that is the reason a lot of our habitats, a lot of our springs are drying up. Because people are putting that into a forest, eucalyptus, water-thirsty plants. If you don't follow that etiquette of restoring, you are actually not restoring a wetland, you are actually harming a wetland. So it is a very important habitat for a lot of waterfalls. If you look at the migration of birds globally and also locally, the longest flying bird or the longest migrating bird is actually a wetland bird. It's a tern, all the way from Europe up to down south. So, and it follows the pathways of wetlands because it depends on fish. So if you break the migration route of a bird somewhere, that means you're basically, it's like somebody creating a lake between and telling you to swim. Utoke hapa, uende Uganda na upitie kwa maji without a boat. So it is a very significant water pathway for a lot of our migrants. If you look at a lot of the birds in Kenya, flamingos, they will be feeding in Lake Nakuru, in Lake Victoria, and the Rift Valley lakes. But where are they breeding? They are breeding in Lake Natron, right? Which are the stepping stones? These are the wetlands. A lot of us think wetlands are the small swamps, the small bogs, but at least, Professor, you came and said anything 6 meters and less up to where the water floods is a wetland, or is considered a wetland. So I just wanted you to see the implications of our conversion of wetlands, both for birds and also for human beings. Because when I'm doing conservation of cranes, I tell people don't even think about cranes. Think about yourselves. How many of you, by a show of hand, could access water some time back, or you could fetch water nearby, but now it's dry? By just a show of hand, maybe for the old folks. Hakuna? I need to know where you guys live. Yeah, ni watu wengi sana walikuwa wanatoka kwao nyumbani, wanaenda wanataka kuchukua maji ya kukunywa, wanaenda hapo chini, si ndio? Mimi nimebeba mitungi sana. Una fetch maji, unarudi nyumbani, si ndio? But because of our conversion of wetlands into maybe the former presenter talked about conversion into agriculture, encroachment, planting eucalyptus, draining all of it for your sake, irrigation. You cannot now access that water. And there's a lot of shortage. Right now, one of the areas with a very big water shortage of fresh water is along the lake region. Is that true, Professor? Where do we have the largest fresh water body in East Africa? Is Lake Victoria, right? Should there even be a shortage of water? So you can see, I don't like talking about the implication of wetland degradation or conversion only for animals. I also like to pass that message, and you see, as a person, as a man, as a woman, the implication that it has on your life. Finally, because I don't want to extend beyond my 7 minutes, I want to talk about the importance of wetlands for our endangered species. Do you know in Kenya, almost half of the endangered species are found in wetlands? So right now, at this swamp, is it called Marula? The bird that you found there, the gray-crowned crane, is endangered. 40 years ago, it was almost more than 40,000 birds in Kenya. Right now, we have less than 8,000. That means a decline of almost 80%. And it's a wetland-dependent species. The nearest wetland here, because I think we are in the Lake Victoria Basin, you can get the Papyrus gonorex. You cannot find those birds anywhere else, apart from that Lake Victoria Basin. So that means the moment you destroy that habitat, you lose that species and it is extinct. If you go to the coastal areas, the Tana River Delta, you'll find birds like Basler lead warblers, you'll find things like Cracks weaver. So that is just a few examples of birds that if you don't conserve their wetland, then they are gone. Wasikizaji, tumesikizana important for birds and tuko pamoja. Kama nimekuongeleshea, hebu nione ukisimama. Mimi naongojea wenye nimeongeleshea wasimame. Oh, wainue na mkono. Good, asanteni.
Thank you so much. Now I'm going to ask Mr. David to restore the David.
Thank you very much. Good afternoon again. My name is Steve Truta, as I said. I work for Water Resources Authority as the manager now for Eldoret Sub-Regional Office. Water Resources Authority, when it came into inception, had two major mandates. One was allocation and apportionment and allocation of water resources for equitable distribution to users, and catchment restoration for purposes of getting enough water coming from our catchment areas and water that we, in our mind, is deemed to be clean and potable in terms of fit for human consumption. That mandate was since developed so that it is shared between the national and the county government, and we were implementing that catchment restoration by a multi-stakeholder approach. So we remained a regulatory body, and now what we do is apportionment and allocation of water resources by permitting. We do monitoring of water resources, availability of it in terms of discharge in volumes, and we do monitoring of quality of water resources by sampling and doing laboratory analysis to establish the fitness for human consumption. However, again, through a cabinet memo and what is being understood now to be implementation of Water Regulations 2021, we have been given or back part of the mandate of catchment, which is now the riparian and the wetland conservation. Here is where we will meet all the time and always in order to restore our wetlands. What we have been doing and what we intend to do is that we have the mandate to now define, delineate, and mark and peg the riparian areas along the water courses, called the rivers, along the springs or around the spring heads, in the wetlands and in the swamps, and any wetland that holds water, wether lake, ocean, although we don't have an ocean here, dams, and also even where there are ponds. What has come to harm our water very much is encroachment in terms of human activity, which has been talked by four speakers, of encroachment into the riparian or the water bodies. In doing so, you deplete the water. And we in water resources, we are coming from a knowledge where we say water is life. Kuna maisha ya bila maji. Water is life. And then scientists, hydrogeologists, and others have defined it to us that fresh water is only 3% globally. 97% is saline. You can do research on that and do what is called fact finding. That is what it is. So we also say water is finite and it is of economic value. So if you know you can deplete, and we have seen across all our catchments, from 1970, whatever what professor said, we here locally, we have seen for ourselves. Some swamps that was rich or were rich with water, some have dried up. Am I right? Some springs that used to ooze water, some have dried up. Some streams where children could not cross when it rains, hata mtoto siku hizi anatembea ndani. It is because we have done a lot of harm into those riparian areas, thus opening up water for depletion by evaporation and by drainage by human beings. Therefore, we intend to restore. And kindly, I want to invite Mwangi to my office so that when we talk to Raya, we don't contradict one another. Restoration of water sources is the language we use in Water Resources Authority. And we restore by planting indigenous, water-friendly trees. Am I right, Oro? When you have a wetland that has been depleted, What we do is we ask our communities, led by our water resources associations, to please together with us, we redefine that wetland into its original size, define its riparian zone. Having established that, we are now asking them to plant water-friendly trees, and we do it together. And when you do that, a question of 5 years, your wetland is back, your water is back. The only thing we disagree, or we tell people not to do, is to plant eucalyptus, because eucalyptus is a water castle. If you want to try a wetland, weka eucalyptus ndani. If you want to try a wetland, kata mitaro, maji itoroke. Wewe mwenyewe utakimbia kutafuta maji na wewe mwenyewe ulifukuza. So that is what we do. We want to do very intensively going forward for wetland restoration. For those people who do what is called pollution, because we are now dealing with water analysis for pollutants, we are engaging them so that for a facility like Eldoas, before they discharge their effluent discharge into the river, which is now in this case River Susiani, we will be talking with them, and we have been engaging them before to put what is called effluent discharge control plan, so that they discharge the effluent into the water resource or a wetland or land. It should have been treated well into an acceptable world standards of discharge of an effluent into a river body. For those who are resident within wetlands and within riparian areas of rivers, we educate them not to be building their pit latrines on the river banks. Si mnaishi town wengi wenu, mumeona watu wanajenga latrine mpaka the edge of the river. Alafu huko ndani anatokoa shimo, anaelekeza kwa maji. So that latrine will never fill. But where is the waste going into? And yet we have residents where? Downstream of the water. So that's very bad. So why we do apportionment and overlocation is so that also we don't have somebody who can come and divert the whole of water in Susiani and put it in his farm and deplete that water not to go downstream of Susiani. So we give you what is enough for you. Wetlands Day is a very important day to Water Resources Authority. We would do all that which it takes to ensure that we restore all our wetlands in Uasin Gishu, all our wetlands in Elgeyo Marakwet, the same in Vihiga, Kakamega, and Nandi County. If that happens, then we will be mitigating on the phenomenon called the climate change. Because all that has caused what is called the climate change. And it is all of us to put up our heads together, our hands together, to reverse. And we reverse by restoration. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Dr. Amley. Thank you. Tell us.
Okay. So I'm Dr. Geoffrey Mule. A staff from the University of Eldoret, and I'm going to give you something brief on restoration of aquatic macrophytes or aquatic plants. So I'll start by defining what are these aquatic plants or aquatic macrophytes. So these ones are, they are different groups of macroscopic plants that are found growing either in water or they grow near water. They grow where there is water. And we have different types of macrophytes. We have the ones we call emergent, like the ones you see in wetlands. When you're walking around, they are big, you can see them. Then we have others that are submerged in water, and you cannot see them, they are submerged in water. Then you have others that are floating. They float on the surface of water. And then you also have the ones, the aquatic plants we find in the marine environment, and these are the ones we call the mangroves. The mangroves are aquatic plants that are found in the marine environment. And then we ask ourselves, why should we be bothered, or why should we restore macrophytes? And this is because of the role they play in aquatic environments. For example, they form a healthy habitat for a wide variety of organisms. They also form breeding grounds for things like fish, crustaceans, among others. And then, again, they absorb a lot of carbon dioxide, and therefore they contribute in mitigation of climate change. And then again, there are very many products that are obtained from macrophytes, and these ones are used as at household level. Others are also a source of income, especially to the local community. They can harvest, they can make products from the plant. For example, you have seen like the papyrus reed. There are products that are obtained from the papyrus reed. Some are used at home, others are normally sold. So there are very many products that can be obtained from the macrophytes, and they also have a lot of ecological importance. Then another question we ask then, what is the problem? Why do they have to be restored? This is because of now most of our wetlands are degraded. And once wetlands are degraded, or once aquatic systems are degraded, it affects everything, whatever is growing in that wetland, including the macrophytes. The macrophytes are also affected. And so, okay, some of the problems that are threatening macrophytes. And if they threaten macrophytes, they're also threatening the wetlands, like now over-exploitation of macrophytes. Over-exploitation of macrophytes, and therefore, this can lead to the loss of these macrophytes. Another problem is land use change. So a lot of wetlands are being converted for agricultural purposes. And to convert a wetland just to plant maize, to plant beans, then it means the macrophytes will have to be removed. And then another one, we have a fire. This seasonal burning that is normally done in our wetlands. So once the burning is done, then it means the macrophytes are also destroyed. They're also destroyed. And then we also have now natural causes like climate change. We have prolonged droughts that lead to the drying up of wetlands. Then this again is also affecting the macrophytes. And so now, how do we restore these aquatic macrophytes? I think restoration has been defined before, but I can still define it here. So restoration is repairing a disturbed or a degraded ecosystem through human intervention. So man has to be involved in restoration. And the importance of this is it accelerates the recovery of the disturbed ecosystem. So when man intervenes, now the restoration or the recovery of this disturbed ecosystem is normally accelerated. And so now to restore the macrophytes, it is a multi-step process. So it involves several steps. And so the first one, the site where you want to do the restoration, it has to be assessed. You need to know the level of degradation, and then one also needs to know the native macrophytes that are growing in that area. And then you also need now to define the goal of the project. You want to plant new plants. You want to restore these to the original state. So you need to define the role of the project. And then you also need to remove the sources of disturbance. So what is affecting the macrophytes? For example, like if it is seasonal burning, you need to stop that. If it is cultivation, you need to stop that. If it is pollution, you also need to stop that. And then again, depending on the level of degradation, rehabilitation of the substrates, rehabilitation either of the soil or of the water. The soil may be polluted, the water may be polluted. You may have now to rehabilitate that. And then from there, after that, now you can restore the vegetation. You can restore the vegetation, and this can be done by just direct revegetation of the site that is now landing on the degraded site. And for this one, it is advisable to use the native species. The native species, because they are already adapted to that environment. So if you use the native species, then your project will likely succeed. And then after that, you also now need to monitor to know if you are achieving your goal. If you are not achieving your goal, then you may need to use another way of management. So you need to monitor to know whether these plants are peaking. Then, in addition, so that alone cannot work. That alone cannot work. So in addition, you also need to educate the local community on sustainable utilization of the macrophytes, because these macrophytes are there for us to use. And there's no way you're going to tell people not to use them. You cannot tell people not to use them. So they need to be educated on how they can use them sustainably. Then another one, you can also add value, or they can also be taught, those who are using the macrophytes, they can be taught how to add value to the products they make from the wetland plants. So again, I give an example like of the papyrus plant here. What most people do around here is like they just make mats. They make mats, and mats cannot fetch much. But you can add value to that by making baskets, by making chairs, and that way these people, they can be a source of income. And if they realize that they can get a living out of these macrophytes, then they will take care, of them. And then again, we can have a alternative and sustainable use of the wetlands. Sustainable, we can have alternative and sustainable use of the wetlands. For example, I did some research, and what I saw, our wetlands here in Disscusion, there's a lot of crayfish. A lot of crayfish. Even our wetlands down here, there's a lot of crayfish. So these local communities, or the people who are living around the wetlands, they can be shown how to do crayfish farming. So that will reduce pressure on the vegetation, This will again reduce pressure also on the wetland. And then they can also do others like even fish farming. So all of these, one, they will get more money from these alternative uses of the macrophytes and the wetlands. And so that way, these wetlands will be restored. And as when I did my research, I saw that like when you remove, if the degradation is not that severe, and you just remove the source of disturbance, that is, you stop cultivating, these macrophytes regenerate naturally. You may not need any other intervention once you remove the disturbance. So they regenerate very fast. So thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Joseph.
Good afternoon, all of you. My name is Joseph Timori. I'm from Country Forest Conservator. Hello, my name is Joseph Kingori. I'm the County Forest Conservator who was in Gishu. And also, you know, the forest has come from Dorset University. So I also originated from here. So I'm one of you. Before I talk about the wetlands, let me say we have prepared something small that my assistant might present. But before that, yes, I want to say what we are doing as Kenya Forest Service. As you are aware, you know the president launched the tree growing campaigns on 21st December 2022. And ours is to mobilize all stakeholders and all partners to be involved in tree planting. You know, right now, we as Kenya Forest Service are managing the gazetted forest. Inside the gazetted forest is where we have some of the wetlands. But most of the wetlands might be found in the rural areas. As you are aware, the Kenya Forest Service is only managing the gazetted forest. On the land in the rural areas, it is being managed by the county governments. Ours, we only provide the technical and professional skills. And we also come in to assist where it is necessary. So mine today is to call for all to be involved in this tree planting, tree growing exercise. The campaign started from 21st December, and we are all required to be involved as individual, as organization, and it should now cascade from the national government, from the national level, up to the locational level. We underscore the commitment of the government in reclaiming all those wetlands and irregularly encroached wetlands and forest lands. We are expected to come up with an army, a green army to deforest the forest and make the forest green again. There are those areas that we encourage people to intervene. We are supposed to engage in rehabilitation of all degraded national forests, in gazetted forest, and water towers. We also should be involved in rehabilitation of degraded mangroves ecosystem. We also have the industrial forest plantations and do the restocking. Most of the forests are private now. They are found in private lands. We are encouraged also to focus on those areas. That is where we have those wetlands. We also have the establishment of bamboo plantations in private lands. We should also focus on wood roads, botanical gardens, boundary planting in schools, and also in the institutions. So my call here today is to do what you can. As the president said, we were supposed to plant 5 billion seedlings in the first 5 years of his administration, and then 10 billion seedlings in the next administration. So my call here is all of us to wake up and do what we can. Make sure you plant. We expect per year, every Kenyan should plant 300 trees so that we achieve the 5 billion trees in the next 5 years. I know in Kenya we talk much. We talk about rehabilitation, we hold workshops, but the actual planting is not being done. And we don't just talk of planting, we need to set funds to do the rehabilitation, because it is also costly to do this. It doesn't need any workshop, it needs funds. We need to set, as an institution, a lot of funds. Yesterday, when my forester was calling me, he was telling me that the University of Eldoret wants us to assist them with the seedlings. When I was here last time, we used to have a nursery there. We used to have a lot of seedlings. And as I believe all foresters come from here, I don't see why the University of Eldoret should be borrowing seedlings. In fact, they should be the producer, they should be the suppliers to the surrounding communities. That is why my call today is today. You know, those of my age can remember when you used to go to school. When it rains, we used to see a lot of frogs along the road when it rains. And they used always to produce some sounds. So it's known now the rainy season have come. All those wetlands are normal. When you go to the forest, as Kenyans, we are aware, we have cleared almost all the river valleys. They are now naked. We need to come back and plant trees in those river valleys. And it's not a responsibility of the Kenya Forest Service. Kenya Forest Service, we are very few. We only have one officer per county, per sub-county. And you know, one sub-county is so big. So it's a call, it's a responsibility of every Kenyan to take this call seriously. Let us talk less and do more, so that we change this nation the way it is. Today, those of us who went to River Clean down there, we were all sweating. And you can imagine when we are sweating and we are in a school, in Disscusion, where this area is where we now talk that this is one of the green areas in Kenya, where even our store where you expect to get food, Disscusion is one of it. So you can see how the climate has changed and it has started affecting us. When I was here, when I came for my degree, right now, we could not expect right now all of us to be having the heat that now we are feeling. But now you can see, even the student here, nobody has a coat. It's only the people of my age who are wearing the coat because the area is too hot. So this climate change is real and it's affecting all of us. I don't know whether I have time to give to, I'm told there is no time, we had prepared something, but I want to finish there, just accept what I've given. Ours as Kenya Foresters is to call everybody to take this campaign seriously, to plant trees. Start with your home, start with your compound, start with where you are. Start with an institution like this, where foresters come from. We want to see much from Eldoret University. Thank you, and God bless you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Glory. I'm now going to call Sally. Yes. Come and tell us what Nina is doing. Restore continuity. Sally, you have 7 minutes.
Good afternoon, everybody. All protocols observed, and respect for the gurus of wetlands. Ukianzia professor, kuna mahali we passed each other somewhere a long time ago. Madam Daktari here again. People hapa wamechapa maneno ya wetlands vizuri. So myself, I'm not going to talk about technical matters. Let me talk about what can we do to restore our catchments, or what are we doing to restore our catchments. In a snapshot, Uasin Gishu is blessed. It is within the plateau, in the islands, and when it rains, most of the time, the soils become waterlogged, or not all water flows downstream because of the terrain of the land. And when it is dry, when you go to those areas, you get the root shock. It's so dry until the soils are cracked. So I think what we can do as people of Uasin Gishu, there is need to visit farmers. We've visited farmers, we've met farmers, can talk about the recent ones. We talked with farmers along the catchment of River Soshani, around Kaptagat, above Elekerini. I think we have had about 3 or so meetings where you discuss with them and show them what happens if you don't do anything about wetlands. And as Dr. has said, restoration means correction or repairing what has been damaged. And our main objective is to reach out to every landlord or an owner of a parcel of land whose land, either as a wetland within the parcel or a building or adjacent to a wetland. And I believe Professor had told you wetlands, what wetlands are. It can be those small pools of where water stays there for some time during the year. And these are the very parts that retains water for us even to get water in our shallow wells, in the farms. And we've also had meetings with farmers along Chepkoileng River, and we are continuing meeting others. I'm talking about those ones we have done a greater interaction in more deep sense. And the most important part is let us look at generally all the policies on issues of water areas or wetlands in general, so that we all come together and do a very important work on restoration. Some observations that we made some time back, either I think should have been 2020 or parts of 2021. Most of the farmers, when it rains, because either the land has become small, so many subdivisions, so people have small parcels of land, and maybe they bought it during the dry season. When it rains, they find themselves swimming like fish. And so they look for equipment to come and drain. So we are raising those awareness so that people can use wetlands wisely for their own good, for the good of humanity and the whole world. 2, we also have thinking of a concept whereby we've talked with the Agriculture Department in the county government of Uasin Gishu, if we can use their land to demonstrate how a farmer next to a wetland should behave, so that you continue deriving good from the wetland, yourself as an individual farmer, and also ensuring others are deriving the same downstream, because everywhere is a catchment. If I'm in Chepkoilel here, I look upstream, I say that is my catchment. Then somebody who is downstream, Chepkoilel here, they'll say their catchment is Chepkoilel. So everywhere is an upstream or a catchment until we go to sea. So the sea will say land is my catchment. Now, if we can have every farmer understanding this, the information that we've been sharing with them is leave what is marked as riparian land. If it is a small, maybe stream, according to the water quality regulations, you remain 6 meters, then you utilize what is ahead of the 6 meters. If it is a big river, then you go as up to 30 meters. If it is a lake, there are measurements for lakes. But for us, Uasin Gishu, we are playing around 30 meters and the 6 meters. So if a farmer can grow, what we are encouraging them is if they can grow evergreen, either fruit tree or indigenous tree, from immediately after the riparian land, if they can have permanent trees like maybe like in Uasin Gishu, most farmers have not known you can grow mangoes. There are some species of mangoes they can do well here, right? Maybe away far from the riparian area, you can do even avocados, because that is what is being encouraged here. Because of its rooting, it doesn't require a lot of water. In its rooting area, it may rot. We also encourage planting of some indigenous trees that will attract, that go with the wetland, that will attract, maybe will have flowers, will attract bees, and so increase biodiversity. They can do an apiary just along the wetland area or their farm site. They can also, with Ministry of Tourism, work together and see what ecotourism activities they can do. Either they can have walkways, or where people just can relax. If it is your boma, instead of you maybe being squeezed in the homestead, when you have your guests, you can set a very nice sitting area within that. That is what we are trying to encourage them, but they should liaise with the relevant departments so that they plant the right trees, not again destroying the wetlands. And what as they have destroyed, we are encouraging them to leave it to recover naturally, or assist to recover naturally, maybe by planting the right trees, or ensuring when it rains, they label the land as it was, so that when it rains, the terrain remains as it was. And we have issues of, we check also on water quality issues, and the issue of looking at what projects are coming up along the catchment area, so that they can be at a point of intervention, so that we reduce pollution or loading of that river or any destruction because of that particular development. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Sally. I'm now going to call on the BBC once again. Tell us about the operation of ecological health of urban streams.
Sorry. Me had already done mine, so let's just go to question time.
Question time now. And comments? Okay, I'm going to start. I'm going to go back. I'm going to start with you.
Good afternoon again, ladies and gentlemen. I would like to thank the panelists for the deep knowledge that you have. You've really talked incisively on the issues that touch on environment. I want to go the spiritual part because there is a problem in this nation. The Bible says God created man in his own image, after his own likeness. The Bible also says the foolishness of God is greater than wise men. What happens in this nation? What has been said, Professor Aburu, this is what I talked about when we were down. I talked about the DOD and the effect of oxygen. And that is the green things that is being talked about the world. The green gas emissions, bringing the climate change, is all because of the foolishness of man. This country, we are lacking in policy direction. Because this knowledge is rich, and I'm surprised that the university like this has got details and things that we need to do. But Mr. Ruta and I, in the room, I'm Christopher Pogo, or Water Resources Organization. The challenges that we meet is we have a people whose attitude is so intransigent towards some of this useful information that we have. The land tenure system, for example, the laws that we have are conflicting laws, for example. Look at Survey Act that gives right to an individual right to the stream. Look at the Water Act that tells us you need to protect the riparian zone. I did have a question. Okay, thank you. Because I was just making that comment. But let's listen to what God says. Because if we continue the way we are continuing, we shall talk up until Jesus comes. I want to say the last thing that God did to the children of Israel. Because you read in the book of Chronicles, during the time of Zedekiah, the 490 years that Israel were living, they messed up their own country, and they were sent into exile into Babylon. This is what is likely to happen in this country. God bless you.
Okay, ladies and gentlemen, I want to also thank the panelists very fast for the good presentations they have given us. I was wondering, when Professor Aburu gave us the issues of wetland, in the 1970s, it was land reclamation applied by various countries. And then later on, we are now talking about land reclamation. The question that I'm asking is, what informed the paradigm shift from exploitation of the wetland to restoration of the wetland? Thank you.
Thank you all for the presentations. Quick one. People do what you expect, not what you expect. What are we going to do about enforcement? Because Kenyans understand more enforcement than anything else.
Thank you very much. My question goes to Elder White. You say you sensitize communities and especially farmers. And we know that most of the time areas under farming are also attachment areas. You are issue, maybe I should say it's part of our brain basket. And they can't be talked about. They came to land, they use fertilizer, and so forth. So when you sensitize them, what do you tell them to do?
Okay. My question is about this Maruna swamp. Here in LPC being set on fire. And I'm wondering, all this time, are there any authority, first of all, who does it? And are there any authorities that can stop this? So I'm hoping this year we will see that smoke. Thank you.
Thank you. This one goes to ECOWAS, the one who was representing ECOWAS. Is it ECOWAS? You may excuse me. My question is, do you do a needs assessment before you sensitize the people to plant trees? Because I hear and I see, I believe, there are so many needs, not only trees, that are concerned with the rural communities. So there is the need to do a needs assessment before we do that. Then to Professor Rabur, what is the level of extension and education in as far as wetland conservation is concerned in this country? And then another question for Professor Rabur is there a wetland policy guiding the restoration of wetlands? Then the last question goes to the one who was representing the so-called wildlife something. You mentioned, so the question is, I see flamingos when they come to Uganda, in Ireke Munyanyange. They come when they are white. But with time, they change the color to pink. What could be the underlying factors as that one is there?
Mine is to the forestry side. I have a problem with policy framework that is put aside. When you realize that a lot of wetlands in Disscusion County has a problem of intrusion, destruction, and devastation. Basically, some of them are heading to extinction. What could be the problem in the policy framework? Is it that you don't have the support from the government to ensure that this policy is enhanced? That's my question.
Two more, and then we can answer those.
Yes. Thank you, everyone, for this wonderful occasion. I have an observation. Here, majority of us are the youths, and I've not seen you telling us the role of youth on wetland restoration. These people you see here have positive influence to the people across this country. Kindly let us involve them in your platforms, on your programs. Tell them to join you in your work. Then this thing we are talking on wetland restoration will be achieved. Kindly do that. Thank you.
Okay, thank you first for organizing this event. I'd like to thank the organizers for this event. Okay, my question it's a kind of a question go to University of Edward, Professor Lambulu. My question is about how do you cooperate with individuals? You find that there are some individuals outside there, they have good proposal, good projects in which maybe they can, if you partner with them, they can be able to restore the wetlands or the catchment areas. But most of the time you find that these people are told, you come with a group, we come with a team. So is it possible maybe for them, for the university to partner with individual people who have projects that concerns restoration? I think the same question should be also addressed by the elders, because some of the youth have good proposals, they have good things, maybe good ideas of restoring, but they lack a way in which they can reach those people who can help them to do that. Thank you.
Good evening. Okay, I'm Jacob, University Direct. My question goes to the five represented there. In history, we have a difference between history and legacy. So, as you are there in your position as a leader in restoring the wetland, what's your legacy? What's your plan? Are you going to leave behind towards restoring the wetland? And then, as per the last year, theme about action of the people and the nature. So my question is, you have some of the recommendations you made during the last year and the 2021. Have you followed, or is just a history that we are going to celebrate this day, this year, next year? Are we going to follow? Did you follow anything you made last time, or we are just making a history over this day? Thank you.
Okay, one last question.
Thank you. All protocol observed. My question goes to the county government of Disscusion and Water Resource Authority. You told us that your mandate is to monitor the quality of water and maybe what's going on in the catchment areas. I don't know what is the state of how is the sedimentation in the catchment area, in watershed, in the wetlands. Let me come up again. My question is, what is the state of, or how is sorry. I believe he is getting me. My question is, how is because sediments are being deposited in the wetland. So I'm asking the person in charge of Water Resource Authority that during your monitoring process, how is the state of, is it increasingly, maybe from the previous years, how is it happening in the wetlands? And to the county government, have you enacted policies to cope with the increasing sedimentation in the wetlands? Because you realize that what's happening in the catchment, example, Kaptakat, that is due to the ongoing human activities. It will increase sedimentation in the wetlands. Have you enacted policies to cope with that problem? Thank you.
Thank you very much. Panelists, I think you've taken note of your questions. So, kindly answer them as briefly as possible.
Okay, thank you so much. Yeah, I'll want to stand in for the questions that were directed to elders. Now, this one is concerned with the sensitization of the communities that we have been doing all along. And the question was about the needs assessment. Okay, with us as elders, we understand our catchment areas. And we know the needs that are required in all these catchment areas. That is why we have set up the tree nurseries. And with the communities, you cannot be able to go through with the plans of, let's say, for example, environmental conservation, most especially along the riparian areas, without the buy-in of the communities. So we have had some approaches that we apply so that we have the buy-in of the communities, in the sense that anytime we are planting the trees, they're the ones who does the work. And we have also come up with a plan of the raising of the tree nurseries so that we buy tree seedlings from them. And then we are able also to take them through or sensitize them or train them on how they are supposed actually to raise these tree nurseries. So from our end, it has never been an issue, especially when we are coming in to work with the communities, because of the sensitization that we have actually undertaken. And there's something that also I wanted to mention about the youth involvement. Right now, I think the proposals that are coming into elders mostly from the youth organizations, it is so enormous. And in fact, the last one that we had done, we did it with Moy University. And those ones, they are youth. And I want to believe that probably maybe among us, we have those that we actually did together in the planting of trees in our catchment areas. And there's one that we had even received from the University of Eldoret, from these the law students. Yeah, there's an upcoming one. So we are having so many of them that are actually coming to our end so that we work together with them. Because they are our stakeholders, and it is very important that we are supposed to work together with our youth. Telling of about the sensitization, there's someone who wanted to know what we normally tell our farmers. It is about the best practices that they're supposed actually to be doing. Like, for example, they are supposed to adhere to what Sally had said about either reserving the 6 meters, and then we are encouraging the planting of napier grass, the planting of fruit trees, which we are ready to give out because we have so many of them. So those are some of the best practices that we normally encourage those farmers on how to go about, especially along the riparian areas. And then there's a question here. Someone is asking, so this is how it goes. That this one is going to Eldor's team, that since it is wetlands awareness, why is it that the Eldor's water disappear and appear much dirtier than when it disappeared? What do we need to know? And then I think he's laughing. I don't know if it is a he or a she. So it is about, probably it is about the water rationing. And this one is just coming back to us again. And that is the reason why we are supposed actually to enhance these activities of environmental conservation. Because our water sources actually, they are dwindling. And the reason why we normally do the rationing is because the water is not enough. Now, I just want to mention about the dirty part of it. Our water, and probably my colleague, there's a doctor, they can mention about the quality of Eldor's water. I don't think we are failing in quality of Eldor's water. So sometimes when, during the distribution, we can't avoid leakage, or we can't avoid a burst. That is something that we normally manage, yeah? We can't actually do away completely with it. So anytime there is a burst or there's a leakage, of course, we normally move in to repair. And during the time of repair, there's no way you can prevent some soil to get in water. Now, the soil getting in water doesn't mean that that water is not of good quality, because we always maintain our water, especially the chlorine level. The only thing is probably like aesthetically, it is not appealing, but the water is of good quality. And we also have a maintenance program of flushing, because we have areas called dead ends. The dead ends, these are areas at the end, like if there's a distribution line and you are the one who is at the last point. So you will find that in most cases, your water at some point, it will get dirty. But then we have a maintenance program of flushing of those lines. Sometimes we could be moving around and then you find that our people, they are moving along the distribution lines and they are releasing water, getting probably into rivers, because we want to wash out. but it doesn't take long. And in any case, if there is any issue with quality that is persistent, we have a quality laboratory that is accredited, ISO 17025. And that one, I think it's something that I can also sell out because we have been partnering even with the University of Eldoret on carrying out some of the quality tests on also our water. And probably just to add on that, I can also give to my colleague Carol to chip in. Thank you.
Just quickly to mention something that earlier on, I'm just enforcing my question as well. Earlier on, we, as Eldoret, we had a tripartite agreement with most of the institutions around Eldoret, industries, factories and everything, on the effluents that were being discharged into the river Sosiani. And we had a tripartite agreement where we were going out and penalizing those people if they went against the agreement. And now, because of the county government, we are not able to do that tripartite agreement again because the enforcement now is taken out of our hands. And as he asked a question about farmers, we can only advise. We will never be able to prosecute or enforce anything that we find is substandard. And so this issue of enforcement is actually lies at the core of what effluents are charged into the system and why the water quality reduces when you look at various points within the town. Thank you very much. I think Water Resource Authority, you had some few questions. Kindly be as brief as possible.
Question 1, segmentation. And I want to congratulate the young man there. He must be in water resources class. When we do our water quality monitoring, one of the monitored parameter is sedimentation. And our rivers, because we are talking of encroachment all the time, has really been silted because of sediments. Our swamps, our dams that were done by colonial masters, the dams that we do, the bodies that we do, suffer a lot of sedimentation yearly. This speaks to the health of the catchment, and it is all because of our activities as human beings. There is that which we call degradation, deforestation, devegetation, and poor methods of farming. In the hills of Cherangani, Elgon Hills, the rugged hills of Nandi Hills. So our waters, our water bodies, be it wetlands, streams, rivers, lakes if we have, and all that you know, have really been affected by sediments, seriously. Even up to and including our main lake, Eastern Central Africa, the Lake Victoria, and whose now the depth is reducing yearly. So there is a lot that we need to do in terms of farming activities and catchment conservation to reduce sedimentation. Policy enforcement. In water resources, just for a minute, we have the Water Act, which was enacted in 2002, has since been revised in 2016, and it came with operationalized by Water Management Rules 2007. This one gives us the definition of a riparian, as I had said earlier. And when people are encroaching into the riverbanks and the wetlands on the riparian zones, ours is to give definition of what it is, the extent that it goes in every body of water, and advice. The only thing we don't have is prosecutory powers. If we are given that, we can enforce and enforce effectively. Thank you.
to follow up on the issue of enforcement, thank you for that particular question. The policies are there. The Act is for Environment Management and Coordination Act, and the regulations under it provides water quality regulations. And in these water quality regulations, it deals with the issues of the water quality, introducing foreign matter to such particular habitats, enforcement. We are first going out and talking to the farmers. In this, I'm talking about catchment. For those who are not farmers, those who are doing their businesses, like those who are doing big businesses, agro businesses, those ones, we've interacted with them on issues of enforcement and they know. Some have gone to court. We won the case, they paid the penalty and felt the pinch and came back to ask, what can we do to comply? For the farmers, I think if we crack the whip, like the one for the plastics, I don't know what it's going to look like, but we want to do the awareness. And once we are done, and with my colleague from Water Resources Authority, I think enforcement will do. We know our farmers are quite far, but when you look back at the history of farming and land ownership in this country, those farmers who are over 90 years or over 80 years, they know riparian land is supposed to be protected. You can hardly get an old farmer encroaching on a wetland. Those who are encroaching on a wetland is somebody either not the owner of that land or the young ones of that family. So we want to do proper awareness, and when the whip is cracked, but when somebody is seriously polluting, when somebody seriously goes and cultivates inside or diverts a river, that one you cannot negotiate about it. Okay, so enforcement we will do, but there is also what we call preparedness. There are those who have maybe bought land, there are those subdivisions. The subdivision was not their making. They were shown land like now in January, before it rains. You just see very dry ground. The next thing you wake up, you find yourself marooned.
You want to add?
Thank you very much. I just want to make a small comment on the issue of enforcement. And I want to make a divergent view. In our country, we really have very good laws, as she has just said. But we are doing a lot of politics, and we have made our lives more of politics. You realize when we have elections coming around the corner, we relax everything. We relax the laws because we don't want to lose votes. So by the time we come back, we have lost a lot. So I'm calling upon you as our young ambassadors in these issues of climate and climate change. Kindly let us find ways of separating politics from day-to-day living. Because even if you come to Eldoret, it's only last year that these guys were not allowed to sell on the streets. But every now and then, they are allowed to sell, and then they throw away cabbage. Then when you come to the following year, you have to start again to enforce. Now you want to tell people to go back to their previous positions. I wish we can separate politics from environmental issues, because we want to live. And we should learn from what these other guys are doing in the Western world. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you so much. I have so many questions, but I'm going to summarize in a very short time because our time is already over. We wanted to spend only 2 hours. We're already beyond that. So I'll be very fast. Number one, there was this question on lack of policy direction. People's attitudes are poor, conflicting laws. We need to obey God. I agree with my brother. I don't know if he has gone out. I really agree with him. He's very right. Because I'll combine that with another question on wetlands what's in issue. We have a problem with policy framework. What I want to say is that we really need to obey what we are being told. Both spiritual and the physical, they are all important, and also the academic. They are very important so that we can conserve our wetlands. Now, the policy framework there is. Wetlands occur in different areas. There are those wetlands that are in protected areas, in the national parks, game reserves, etc. Those ones are being protected by Kenya Wildlife Service. Then there is other wetlands, general other wetlands within the country are under NEMA. And then we also have some of those wetlands that maybe are in the public also, and the responsibility is the local communities. So all of us have a responsibility, but as a nation, we have a wetlands policy. And as a country, we also have certain structures that have been developed to take care of our wetlands. Under the Ministry of Water, we have the RUAs, the Water Resource Users Associations. They are the community members in a particular area. We have the beach management units. Those people living around the beaches where fishing is being done, they are supposed to take care of those wetlands and the fish which is being done in those areas. We have the Kenya Forests Association in the forested areas. These are community members that are supposed to take care of those wetlands. So it is not other individuals or the officers here. Each and every person has a role, and you have a role. That's the reason why you are here, why you are invited here. So that each and every one of us has a role. Number two, let's go to the role of the youth in wetland conservation and restoration. One thing I can say for certain that we, the adults, we have failed somehow in making sure things are working. But you, the youths, you should make sure that things work. You have certain structures that we did not have. Right now, a youth, you can wake up here, go to Huduma Center, collect yourselves with your friends, about 5 or so people, and say, with us, we want to conserve the wetlands in our village. And you want to register an organization. You'll become a CEO of your organization, and you protect the wetlands. It will take you very few minutes to register. Just go to Huduma Center and get a group and start it. I have gone around the country when we are having these wetland days. There's a time we went to the coast. I found some of our students whom we taught here have organizations that are protecting mangroves in the whole of coastal region. Young people just like you. So the challenge is that you take the responsibility where we may have failed. You can easily form your CBO or your NGO, and it is something that is very possible, very easy. Don't sit back and see things going wrong. And what supports you is the law of the country. The law of the country says that each and every person has the right to a clean and a what? And a what environment? So it is your right. So whatever you do, please do it because you are allowed to do it. And don't think there are others who are supposed to do it and you are not supposed to do it. Something which I know has been a problem in Kenya is we talk so much, we do very little. I've been in wetlands since the time we started wetland conservation in Kenya. I still remember in 1992, we had a conference in the National Museums of Kenya. That's when the first message of wetlands came to East Africa. And do you know, we are the ones who call Ugandans, we're the ones who call Tanzanians and everybody. Uganda, after about 2 years, had a wetland policy. 1992, so theirs was around 1995. They had a policy. In Kenya, we got ours when? just about 3 years ago, 4 years ago. Because we talk, and we do nothing. So that is the problem of Kenyans, which you, the youth, are supposed to change. And that's the reason why we have the hopes in you. Number two, land reclamation versus land restoration. What informed this? Of course, as we said, wetlands have goods and services, Dr. All those goods and services, we get our fish from wetlands. We get our water from wetlands. We can make our baskets from wetlands. We can get brooms from wetlands. We can be able to get even materials to build our houses from wetlands. All these things, we can get them so long as wetlands are not destroyed. I talked about something called ecological integrity. Ecological integrity means the environment is in a state where it can produce everything that it requires. So when that happens, we will get all those benefits. But when we interfere with it and we have degraded it, we are not going to get those things. Because fish, for example, is very sensitive. Fish is not like a human being. For example, fish, there are some fish that can only breed along the river. They come from the lake and breed along the river. If they find that there is pollution, watarudi, they're not like human beings who will give birth everywhere. They will go back. And the same is even with the birds. There are certain birds, if the environment is not the same, they're not going to do what? To breed. You are talking about this elegant crested crane. This crested crane, nowadays you see it in our Disscusion here, in your wheat farms. They're supposed not to be in wheat farms. They're supposed to be in wetlands. That's where they make a nest. So they don't have a place to make a nest. That's why you see they are randering around here. All right? So what I'm saying in short is that the environmental integrity, the integrity of wetlands must be good for them to be sustained as now and forever. And that's the reason why Ramsar Convention came in, which we are celebrating today. That there should be wise use of wetlands. They did not say that you don't use, wise use, which means you use it today and leave it for our children and great-grandchildren forever. The next question is enforcement. I think a lot has been done, talked about. But there is one element, some two elements I want to add to it, that all of us are supposed to enforce all these things. And that's why there is public participation. And there is an aspect which has not been done a lot, which has not been used a lot, Director Nema. I remember when we were doing the wetland policy in NEMA, that aspect was put. It's called easement. Easement is, for example, along River Sociali. Somebody has a farmland that gets up to the edge of the river. If this person is ready to conserve or plant some trees that are friendly to the water, or he can do maybe something like this grass for Yangombe, napier grass, because napier grass will stabilize the banks, and the banks will not be eroded. Or he wants to plant bamboo, because bamboo will stabilize the banks. So when bamboo grows, he can harvest, make money, but the roots of the bamboo are still protecting the what? Same to things like napier grass. He'll cut the napier grass for the animals, but the soil is still stable. Such kind of a person should be compensated by the government because he's doing it on behalf of everybody else. So that is what we call easement. I think it can help us because, you know, Kenyans with the land, maybe Rift Valley there's a lot of land, a big chunks of land, so you have no problem. You people, you go to other areas. Go to Western here, around Luanda area, those areas, and go to Kiambu, go to those areas, there's no land. But here I think you have a lot of land, but make sure, I mean, if easement is done, then that would be okay. But we can also come up with bylaws, which we agree ourselves as a community, this is what we are going to do. I think I've answered about 7, I'm almost ending up. Marora Swamp, always on fire. Ladies and gentlemen, I think this is, when we started something, I don't know whether it was ever completed, wetland management plan for Marora. Was it completed? Yeah, I think we need to revisit. You know, when we have a wetland management plan for the whole country, I mean for the whole county, we'll have a plan for all our wetlands in Disscusion. But also we can have a specific one, like for Marora. When we have a management plan, then everybody will be involved in talking at what is the problem and how can we solve it, and then they participate in solving it, then that would work. I think that one is done. What is the level of education and extension? Is there a wetland policy regarding wetlands? Yes, I've already said that. We have a national wetland policy, which needs to be followed by everybody. Okay, somebody was asking University of Eldoret, how do you incorporate individuals in terms of partnerships? Honestly, the university does that a lot. We do a lot of partnerships, and we have a lot of MOUs even with communities in different wetland areas. We have the North Rift Herbalist Association. We have some youth groups who are also involved in environment. We work together with them. We can help them to develop proposals to make sure that what they are doing is going on. And so we also have an outreach center at the gate here. This gate, if you go there on the left, there's an outreach center. If you need any assistance, we'll give it free of charge, so long as you're an organized group. Or even if you're an individual and you'd like to be assisted. Once you go there, you'll bring your problem, then the director there, the coordinator there will let us know. And if at all it involves an MOU, we can do an MOU. And we also do a lot of mentorship to help you to do what you want to do. I think just yesterday we were admitting about 85 who are going to be mentored on the issues of dairy farming, in the issues of fisheries, and the issues of mushroom farming. So we have that, and we have a lot of MOUs with different organizations. What is your legacy? Where is that gentleman? Yes, my brother. What's your name? Huh? Jacob. Yeah, I think from now we are going to call you Mr. Legacy, eh? Yeah, each and every individual, like when we are here, we are multi-agency. We have people of NEMA. NEMA is regulations and management, is the management of wetlands. This is a colleague here. Ours is academic, to train people. We have water resources, they have their role. We have forestry, they have their role in the forested areas, which are very critical catchment areas. We have you, either as a student or as a public member. So each and every one of us has a role, and we must all play our role. And that's the essence where you are called here. So it is not our legacy, as the people who are talking here, it's the legacy of everybody. Because the world operates in a particular way. There are international laws or conventions, like what today, the Ramsar Convention is international convention. Now countries are signing that convention, and Kenya is one of them. So if you sign that convention, then you take that, which is at the international level, and bring it to Kenya. Now Kenya will cascade it to the counties and to the different government agencies. So each and every agency is doing their role. So as you are here, you are not there and we are here. We are all in it. But I will tell you our role as the University of Eldoret. Our role is to train. And we have done our job. Let me concentrate only in wetlands. We were the first university to have a Department of Fisheries and Aquatic Sciences. I can tell you for free, each and every agency in this nation, each and every county has either fisheries officer or an environment officer who is from the University of Eldoret. The research institutions, you go to Kenya Marine and Fisheries Research Institute. The boss in Mombasa is ours. The two bosses in Kisumu, one in aquaculture, one in which is taking care of all the waters, the fresh waters. Dr. Aura is our student. Then the other gentleman who is taking care of aquaculture is our student. That who is in Nyeri, where there is the national fisheries, is ours. Go to each and every county we have trained people who are there. Go to NEMA, the person who has been in charge of wetlands, who is now at Kenya Land Commission, was our student. Actually, I supervised him, was my student in wetlands. The one who is now chairing wetlands now, I think it's Dan Ashitiva, this was the one coordinating with us. Dan Ashitiva was also our student, and I supervised him. They were all products of the University of Eldoret. So that is our role, to train you. Once we've trained, there are people who are going to take role of other things outside there. And so we have done our bits, and we continue to do our bits. And what I want to say as I end is that it is for us together. So let us not look at the government should do it, the government should do it. Because who is the government? Who is the government? It's all of us. I think, ladies and gentlemen, if there's anybody with an individual question or I didn't answer anything, you can see me after this. But I think we are going to end it there. And allow me just to thank you so much for being patient. May God bless you.
Foresters do not talk much. 2 minutes are enough. I want to talk about the enforcement. Somebody asked and said, probably have a problem with enforcement. I think we now have a new law called Forest Conservation and Management Act 2016. You remember we started with Forest Act Cap 385, that is what we used to have, which it's only the government officers which used to enforce the law. Then we brought in Forest Act 2005, that is where we brought the communities. And then the new law now we have the Forest Conservation and Management Act in line with the new constitution, that we even involved the county government in the management of forests. So right now, everybody is involved in the management of forest. And when you go through this new law, the communities are co-managers. And we as Kenya Forest Service, we manage this forest on the behalf of the people of Kenya. And now the communities come in as the co-managers. So we are all managing. You as an individual, as a society, as a community, you have a role to play in managing of the forest. And if you go through, you will see that in the Act, we have section 8 and section 10. It also offers the fines and penalties if you break one of the laws. So it's a very strong law if we all utilize it. We also have other laws like the Chief Acts, the Wildlife Act, and any other relevant law, the Water Act. We all use those laws in managing of the forest. And that is why when it comes to the issue of the wetlands and the trees and environment, you are not free to cut any tree. You must get permission, you must get the permit. And when you are getting the permit, all the government officers are involved. You start with the community, the chief is involved, he has to sign for you. Then you go to the agricultural officer, the water officer, then to KFS officer, and also the ward admin must now be involved when you are cutting the tree. So all of us are involved in conservation. There are also some incentives in the Act if you are involved in tree planting. So when you are doing well, the Act also gives incentives for increasing forest cover. So my challenge is to the youth, now that we have the 5 billion that we are supposed now to plant in 5 years, let us take this challenge so that we establish nurseries. The market is there. Let us start nursery. The market is there. When you have your nursery, just register it and come to my office. And then the market will be there for you. My legacy as the county forest conservative in Disscusion. You know, in Disscusion, we have more maize, wheat, but less trees. My legacy is to increase the forest cover. Right now, we start at 6.7%. 6.7%. That is too low. Let us add even 0.5% to what we have. Thank you.
Thank you very much, all our panelists. I'm now going to call upon Dr. Becky Hello to come and
we are going to start with the gifts for our guests. So we are going to announce and then give you the gifts.
Okay, so we are going to give you our beautiful calendars of the University of Eldoret to our guests today. And I'm going to call the EDC to. So we are going to start with Eldoret. KFS. KFS. County government, was an issue. Water Resource Authority. Nema. Okay, and I think we have Kenya fisheries here. Are they here? Maybe they are left. Okay, that's okay. And everyone, yes, and then we have Eldoret Polytechnic. We have RBTTI. RBTTI. Ready? Okay, International Crane Foundation.
No, you're in the crane. I am. Let me tell you something. That's the first organization I got. And I remember in 1990, we were in Okavango. In what? In Okavango Police Station. Okavango there? Yes. Down there. And we were in the founder of the crane. The crane foundation. That was the first. So please, review remember. I will.
Okay, University of Eldoret High School.
You in high school?
So I think those are the institutions represented here today, unless I've forgotten. Oh yes, more university. Thank you very much for coming.
That's our mother.
Okay, so that is it. So I'm going to give it back to Dr. Alon. Proceed.
So thank you very much, Prof. I'm going to give the vote of thanks for today's panel discussion. And first of all, I want to thank the Almighty God for allowing us to gather here today to have this fruitful discussion and see how we can protect our wetlands or restore our wetlands. We agree that each one of us has a role to play. I want to thank the university management through the DVC Research and Innovation, and the Directorate of Research and Innovation, Professor Lizzie Mwamburi, for organizing this function and inviting the other institutions to come and take part in this today's event. I want to thank the panelists who are here. Thank you very much to all the institutions which are presented here today or represented here. And thank you for your wonderful thoughts and ideas which are going to help us to restore our wetlands. I want to thank the students from other institutions as well, as the staff members, and the University of Eldoret fraternity, together with the students and staff, and everybody else who has been presented here today. Thank you very much for coming and taking part in these discussions. We agree that each one of us can take a role in restoring the wetlands, and we must rethink the ways in which we manage and use them so that we protect them for the future generations. So thank you very much, everybody, for this event. So we are going to close with the word of prayer. Can all stand up?
Okay, we are going to, before we close with a word of prayer, we just want to remind you that tomorrow we have an event, and that is the real celebration of Wetlands Day. So we are inviting you tomorrow from 9 o'clock at our pavilion. You're going to come through this gate, this first gate that you encounter. We call it Gate B, but it's the first gate. So you're very much welcome. So after we pray, we are going to take a group picture right here. So you're welcome to take the picture, and then we are going to have tea outside. So we are going to use that gate, that door there, students, and our guests are going to go through this door. Thank you very much.
So let us believe and pray. Almighty and everlasting Father, we thank you for this day. We thank you that you've enabled us to gather here to mark the World Wetlands Day together with the rest of the people in the world. We thank you for the discussions that we have had and for the ideas and thoughts that you've enabled us to share in this place today. As we go and as we part our ways, we pray that you may direct each and every one of us and put a purpose in us so that we may all take part in restoring our wetlands and protecting our environments. Lord, we thank you for our lives, we thank you for our university, and for our nation. We bless your name, and in everything else we give honor and glory. We pray this short prayer in the name of your Son, Jesus Christ. Amen. So we come here for the group photo.